For every single dollar spent building a modern data center, up to 50 cents does not go toward servers or fiber optic cables, but toward backup batteries and diesel generators designed to sit completely silent. Should those silent systems fail to kick in within 8 milliseconds of a power grid hiccup, a mid-sized facility can destroy millions of dollars of client hardware and face ruinous liability lawsuits. Keeping the digital world alive requires this invisible infrastructure, and the math behind it explains why the dream of owning a data center is actually a brutal battle against heat and electric bills. Hidden deep inside these windowless, concrete fortresses lies a single, locked room where the real fortunes are made. A room that remains completely off limits to almost every customer. Before you can even think about entering that room, you have to buy into a business model that is capital intensive and completely unforgiving of operational mistakes. When the first commercial data centers appeared in 1996, they were little more than ventilated warehouses with basic air conditioning. Modern expectations of that dream are built on the promise of passive, recurring income from digital real estate. Many imagine leasing space to tech giants, installing server racks, routing complex power feeds, and collecting rent while their only job is keeping the lights on. Growth in cloud computing and artificial intelligence has pushed digital storage demand to historic heights. Every digital interaction requires space on a hard drive, making data centers look like the ultimate modern landlords. Operating these high-tech warehouses, however, is far from a passive investment. Instead of managing quiet tenants, you run a high-stress manufacturing plant where the raw input is power and the waste is extreme heat. Building a data center from the ground up requires a scale of capital that immediately eliminates casual investors. Rather than measuring costs by square footage, the industry calculates construction expenses by power capacity, using the megawatt as its primary metric. A standard Tier 3 retail colocation facility, designed with redundant power and cooling paths, carries a build cost of approximately $10 million per megawatt. Constructing a modest 5 megawatt data center will start your initial capital budget at $50 million. Land acquisition is only a small fraction of this budget, as you need a site with access to high voltage power lines and multiple redundant fiber optic routes. Real capital expenses are driven by the specialized equipment needed to turn raw electricity into clean, uninterrupted power. Electrical systems like transformers, uninterruptible power supplies, switchgear, and backup generators consume 45% of the budget, or $22,500,000. Operators must source industrial-grade components like twin 2 megawatt generators that burn hundreds of gallons of diesel per hour during outages. Mechanical cooling systems, which include chillers, cooling towers, air handlers, and water pumps, take up another 18% of the budget, translating to $9 million. If cooling loops shut down for just 90 seconds, temperatures inside the server rooms climb past 120 degrees, triggering automatic shutdown. Physical structures and civil engineering consume 20% or $10 million, requiring reinforced concrete walls and raised floors to route heavy cables. Finally, fire suppression systems, biometric security gates, man-traps, and building management software swallow the remaining 17%, which equals $8,500,000. Rather than using water, these rooms use clean gas systems that extinguish fires by interrupting combustion within 10 seconds. Retrofitting an existing warehouse is just as expensive due to the cost of reinforcing columns to support heavy rooftop cooling units. Municipal utility connection fees add another barrier, running as high as $1 million just to secure your spot on the local electrical grid. Before the first client plugs in a single server, you have spent tens of millions of dollars on equipment that depreciates rapidly over a 5 to 7 year cycle. Securing $50 million for a speculative data center build is an exercise in complex corporate finance. Commercial banks rarely lend to unleased projects, meaning you cannot get a loan without pre-leasing a significant portion of your capacity to anchor tenants. A typical capital structure requires you to raise $15 million in cash equity from private investors or venture capital firms. Armed with that equity, you can approach commercial lenders for a $35 million loan. Once the facility is complete, this construction loan transitions into a long-term commercial mortgage amortized over 15 years. At a standard interest rate of 7.5%, your monthly debt service payment is a staggering $324,100. Meeting this note requires your business to generate more than $10,000 in profit daily before paying staff or utility bills. To protect capital, lenders require personal guarantees from partners, putting your own assets on the line if vacancy persists. Leveraging capital this way accelerates your returns if the building is full, but drags you toward bankruptcy if sales stall. However, satisfying the bank is only your first hurdle, as the true operational trap is the cost of running in real time. Opening the doors immediately exposes you to a monthly operating budget that would crush most mid-sized businesses. Your single largest operating expense is electricity, as servers run continuously and devour vast quantities of power. Running a 5 megawatt facility at a moderate 60% load means the servers themselves draw 3 megawatts of continuous power. at a standard commercial rate of 10 cents per kilowatt hour. This continuous draw translates to a base server power bill of $16,000 every month. Chilling infrastructure must also work constantly to reject the heat those servers generate, adding to the power draw. This efficiency ratio is tracked using power usage effectiveness, where a rating of 1.4 means that cooling and power losses consume an extra 0.4 watts for every watt delivered to servers. Applying this 1.4 multiplier pushes your actual continuous power draw to 4.2 megawatts, ballooning your monthly electric bill to $2,400. Should your local utility company implement peak demand pricing during hot summer months, this bill can easily spike by another 20%. Water-cooled chillers also evaporate thousands of gallons of water per day, adding another $8,000 to your monthly expenses. To connect your clients to the wider world, you must lease redundant dark fiber loops from Tier 1 telecom providers. This carrier connectivity, running through separate physical conduits to prevent accidental cuts, costs $22,000 a month. Staffing a data center requires highly specialized labor that cannot be outsourced. Operational safety requires security guards, facilities engineers to run cooling plants, electricians to monitor power, and network technicians to handle fiber links. Maintaining a minimum staff of 8 full-time employees to cover all shifts results in a monthly payroll of $74,000, including benefits. Equipment maintenance contracts are another significant fixed expense, costing $18,000 a month. These contracts ensure that technicians regularly test generators under load, maintain battery banks, and service cooling towers. Property taxes and insurance add $15,000 a month, pushing monthly operating expenses to $31,400. Combining this with the $24,100 in monthly debt service yields a total monthly nut of $755,500. Breaking even requires you to clear this hurdle every single month whether you have 100 clients or only one. Except, the way you generate revenue in a data center is not just by selling space, but by leveraging that secret room we mentioned earlier. That secret space is called the Meet Me Room, and it is the financial engine of any successful data center. Understanding how it works requires looking at the two primary ways a data center bills its clients. First, you sell space by the cabinet, which is a metal rack that holds client servers. Typically, a standard retail colocation cabinet rents for $1,100 a month, including physical space, cooling, and 5 kilowatts of power. Operating at full capacity, this facility generates $1,100,000 a month in cabinet rental revenue. Cabinet space, however, is just the entry point, much like a loss leader in a grocery store. Networking infrastructure provides the real profit engine through cross-connects, which are simple patch cables run inside the Meet Me Room to connect clients. If a client wants to connect to a telecom carrier like AT&T, they must pay you to run a single cable between their racks. Running that cable takes a technician about 15 minutes and costs you less than $15 in materials. Yet, you charge the client a recurring fee of $250 a month, every single month, for as long as that cable remains plugged in. In a mature data center, you can easily have 2,000 active cross-connects, generating $500,000 a month in recurring revenue at a margin close to 99%. High-margin networking revenue is what separates profitable operators from those who struggle to survive. Some operators also offer remote hand services, billing clients $150 an hour for basic tasks like rebooting servers or swapping hard drives. Combining space and high-margin cross-connects allows your total potential revenue to reach $1,600,000 a month. Reaching full capacity is a long and risky road, and the math changes completely when your building is half empty. Consider an average occupancy rate of 80%, which puts your data center in a healthy financial position. Leasing 800 cabinets and running 1,600 cross-connects generates monthly revenue of $1,280,000. Subtracting your monthly operating costs and debt service leaves you with a net monthly profit of $524,500 yearly. This translates to an annual net income of over $6 million, representing a healthy return on your initial investment. Your net profit margin after all expenses, including interest and depreciation, sits at a strong 41%. Operational success in this model remains highly sensitive to vacancy rates due to the massive fixed costs of electricity, staff, and debt. Since you must keep cooling systems running and staff on site regardless of occupancy, your break-even threshold is a high 60%. Dropping to 50% occupancy crashes revenue to $800,000, barely covering your $755,800 monthly nut. Losing a single client can push you into a net loss, forcing you to inject cash just to avoid defaulting on your bank loan. What nobody expected when the industry first matured was how fast the hardware would change, leaving older facilities structurally obsolete. Ultimately, data center ownership is a game of scale and capital access rather than a real estate play. Independent operators face a brutal failure rate, with over 30% of single-site providers going out of business or being acquired at a discount within their first 5 years. Enterprise markets are dominated by massive global trusts like Equinix, which carry the scale to secure cheap power rates and absorb high vacancies. Succeeding as a small operator requires specializing in high-density hosting or focusing on underserved secondary markets where the giants have not yet built. Yet, even if you find a profitable niche, you are always one power grid failure away from financial ruin. Grid failures that knock out utility power require your industrial generators to spin up within 8 milliseconds, or your business is finished. Abrupt shutdowns drop client servers instantly, leading to corrupted databases and ruinous lawsuits that consume your assets. Digital demand will grow, but the owners who profit are the ones who understand that their business is keeping those silent generators ready to scream.